How could a few thousand British were able to rule millions of Indians for over a century?
Were the fault lines that existed were as severe as you say that they couldn't heal by themselves?
The British did what no other power before them had done. They unified the subcontinent. India became one nation.
The British certainly did bring unity, but only in the way a gardener prunes a tree, carefully shaping things to suit their own design.
Critics often focus on the hardships under British rule, but they fail to recognize the undeniable progress that was made. The Indian railway system, for example, grew from just a few hundred miles of track in the 1850s to more than 40,000 miles by 1947.
Yes, the British built railways across India, but let's be clear, these railways were not constructed to serve the people of India.
It's undeniable that the British Empire extract resources from India. Having said that, let's not lose sight of the fact that the British also invested in India.
But the real question we must ask is, was this progress worth it? Was it worth the cost of deepening fault lines within India that we are still grappling with today?
Here is my question to you. After almost 80 years since we the British have left India, where is the progress? Where is the India you envision?
Greetings to all. In today's discussion, we will explore a critical topic. Did the British rule help or hurt India? Through a reimagined debate between myself, Mahatma Gandhi, and Winston Churchill. Before we begin, I must clarify that this conversation is AI generated. The voices and personas of both Mr. Churchill and myself are brought to life using technology. While the debate is rooted in historical facts, it's an imaginative exploration, not an actual exchange. Now, let us begin this thought-provoking dialogue. Over to you.
Thanks, Mr. Gandhi, for having me here. When we reflect on the history of British rule in India, it's important to understand the broader context of what the British Empire contributed. India, at the time of British arrival, was a land of great potential, but it was also one of division and stagnation. There were countless kingdoms and princely states, often embroiled in conflict, with little in the way of unified governance or infrastructure. The British did what no other power before them had done. They unified the subcontinent. India became one nation, governed under a single system with a common legal framework and central administration. This was a monumental achievement that set the stage for India's future growth.
The British certainly did bring unity, but only in the way a gardener prunes a tree, carefully shaping things to suit their own design.
I'll admit, sometimes a little pruning does wonders. Continuing on, under British rule, we built the infrastructure that transformed India. The Indian railway system, for example, grew from just a few hundred miles of track in the 1850s to more than 40,000 miles by 1947, the fourth largest railway system in the world. This network connected remote regions, allowing for the movement of people, goods, and ideas, stimulating commerce and trade across the vast subcontinent.
A fine way to connect India, though I'm sure the tracks always seem to run towards Britain, didn't they?
Well, the railways still helped keep things from getting too derailed. The British also brought to India an educational system that, though imperfect, laid the foundations for India's intellectual and political leadership. By 1947, over 10 million Indians were literate in English, a language that opened up access to global knowledge, science, and technology. British rule also fostered India's industrial growth. It was during the colonial period that key industries such as textiles, cotton, and steel began to emerge. British investments in infrastructure, particularly in the industrial sectors, saw India's industrial output grow significantly, by 5% annually between 1850 and 1947.
I see.
Critics often focus on the hardships under British rule, but they fail to recognize the undeniable progress that was made. The legal system, the development of infrastructure, the growth of industries, and the rise of a modern educated class. These were all products of British governance, and they have left India better positioned for future success.
Mr. Churchill, I have listened carefully to your points, and while I acknowledge that British rule brought certain changes to India, it is crucial to examine what those changes truly meant for the Indian people. You claim that British rule unified India, but in truth, the British unification wasn't about bringing India together, it was about control, resource extraction, and maintaining power. The so-called common legal framework was a tool to govern India efficiently for the British, not for the benefit of the Indian people. Now, a good example of this resource extraction is the railway system you mentioned. Yes, the British built railways across India, but let's be clear, these railways were not constructed to serve the people of India. They were designed to extract resources from our land and transport them to Britain, not to connect our villages or improve the lives of the Indian masses. Here's a quick number from renowned economist and historian Angus Madison's research. India accounted for 24% to 27% of global GDP in the 1700s, which had shrunk to a mere 3% by the time the British left in 1947.
Ah, I see we're pulling out the statistics now.
Yes, they do have a habit of revealing more than intended. Anyway, you also claim that the British education system was a great achievement, but its true purpose was not to educate the masses. It was designed to create a loyal class that could serve the British Empire. Thomas Babington Macaulay, in his Minute on Indian Education in 1835, clearly stated that the goal was to create a class of Indians who were Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in opinions, in morals, and in intellect. Macaulay's reforms led to the establishment of English medium schools in India, focusing on British literature and values while completely neglecting India's own languages, culture, and history. The curriculum was designed to teach Indians to serve the British colonial administration, not to question the system or address India's local issues. While you argue that millions received an education, the truth is that the vast majority of the population was excluded. According to the census of 1901, only about 2% of Indians were literate, with the majority of them concentrated in urban areas and among the elite. For over 80% of the rural population, education was either limited or non-existent.
You raised important points here, and I wouldn't disagree on many of them, but I would like to look at it from another lens, keeping in view the world that existed back then. British rule in India wasn't an isolated experiment in oppression, it was part of a wider global pattern. Colonial powers all had their sights set on expanding their empires, and it was inevitable that India, with its vast resources, would attract such attention. Had it not been Britain, someone else would have done it. The question arises, if India was such a unified and peaceful land, why did so many of its kingdoms eventually fall under British control? There were conflicts, power struggles, and fault lines that the British took advantage of that any other empire instead of Britain would have done. The British succeeded not just through military might, but also by establishing a system of governance that, over time, gained the support of key Indian elites and those who saw British rule as a means of stability and opportunity for themselves. This brought order and peace, not just for the British, but for millions of Indians who lived under the constant fear of local conflicts and instability.
So India's path was already written in the stars, and it was only a matter of which empire would be the lucky one to claim it.
I suppose we did have our eyes on India, but I'd argue it was less about a grand design and more about a fortunate coincidence of timing. It's undeniable that the British Empire extracted resources from India. Having said that, let's not lose sight of the fact that the British also invested in India. They built the railways, they set up trade networks, and they established an administrative system that made governance more efficient. Agreed, this was done for the benefit of the empire more than for the people of India, but over time, these structures also laid the groundwork for a more integrated and efficient India. While the primary goal was British profit and control, the infrastructure did end up benefiting India in the long term. The question, Mr. Gandhi, isn't just about whether British rule was exploitative. That's almost a given in the context of empire. The real question is why India, with its vast resources, its people, and its ancient history, allowed itself to be governed by a foreign power for so long. How could a few thousand British were able to rule millions of Indians for over a century? The truth is that India, with its many internal divisions, was often unable to unite against foreign rule. British rule, in many ways, filled the power vacuum left by India's inability to unify politically. And while the British didn't come here with the intention of nurturing India's future prosperity, their presence forced India to begin its journey towards a more modern state, though this was done for British benefit.
I hear your defense of British rule, but the discussion topic we have today is not whether India's colonization was inevitable, but whether British rule helped or hurt India. The question isn't about whether another power could have colonized India. The question is whether India's future would have been better if Britain or any other power for that matter had never colonized it at all. The core issue here is the impact of the colonization. Would India never been able to unite had there been no British rule? Were the fault lines that existed were as severe as you say that they couldn't heal by themselves? I have to agree, India had regional rulers and yes, we had local differences. But these were not insurmountable challenges. Look at the Mughal Empire, for instance. Despite internal strife and regional differences, the Mughals were able to govern a large, diverse subcontinent for centuries. Even under the Mughals, India was unified by shared cultural values, religious traditions, and an extensive trade network that connected every corner of the subcontinent. The same could have happened without British intervention.
You certainly have a knack for making history sound like a mystery novel. But let's stick to the facts and see where this conversation leads us.
Well, the fact is that the British, instead of uniting, employed divide and rule strategy, fueling tensions between Hindus and Muslims, between Maharajas and the common people, and between different regions of the country. They deliberately deepened these rifts, ensuring that no unified resistance could ever form against British rule, while on the face of it, there was a united India under one British flag. It was a forced unity built on divisions only to maintain British control, not to empower the Indian people. Without British interference, India would have naturally found its own path to unity. Regional differences could have been resolved through internal dialogue and cooperation, much like the early efforts of the Indian Renaissance, which included figures like Raja Ram Mohan Roy and Swami Vivekananda, who worked towards social and political reform to bring India together. Even if they hadn't fully united, there could have been a way to resolve differences more peacefully. Certainly, without the bloodshed we saw during partition in 1947. Regarding progression and modernization, I can concede that under British rule, India did receive infrastructure and some form of progression. The British built railways, roads, and legal frameworks, and yes, they did help modernize certain aspects of India. It's true that these advancements might have occurred at a faster pace than India could have achieved on its own, given the complexities of the time. But the real question we must ask is, was this progress worth it? Was it worth the cost of deepening fault lines within India that we are still grappling with today?
Mr. Gandhi, while I may not fully agree with your perspective on British rule, I must say you've raised some thought-provoking points. Here is my question to you. After almost 80 years since we the British have left India, where is the progress? Where is the India you envision? After all these years, the challenges seem as persistent as ever.
I believe this could be a great discussion topic next time we meet.
Ah, I see. You're leaving me hanging. Very well, Mr. Gandhi, we'll pick this up another time. But surely, India's path isn't as simple as just partitioning empires. I suppose we both share a love for the future, even if our views on the past differ. Let's continue this conversation another time.
Exactly. And if I ever need advice on how to handle a divided nation, I'll be sure to ask you. After all, you did have quite a lot of experience with dividing empires. Before we go, for those who are watching us, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the impact of British rule on India? Please share your views in the comments below. Don't forget to like and share this video, and if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel for more debates like this. We'll see you next time.